Alrighty, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I am back, and it is time for another Starcraft 2 1 vs 1 Pro Replay cast. We have got ourselves a Terran versus Protoss today. For some reason I was going to say a bit of a Terran versus Protoss, but no, it's a regular sized Terran versus Protoss. And it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be an even match, fun and exciting to watch. In the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have got Team GP's Bomber. Bomber, one of the first guys that I ever watched playing Pro Starcraft 2, and it just kind of sat there, like, blown away. Like, how can anyone be that good at Starcraft? I think that was late 2013, probably when I saw his first match. At WCS, he came runner-up, big baby, I think. But then he went and won the next season, so it was okay. And now, in the top right-hand side of the map, taking on Bomber, it's Bravestar Gaming Cyan. Cyan, a Chinese Protoss player, one of the top Chinese players for quite a while now. And although, I mean, it's maybe not the top, I think people look at Time as the favorite, but the Chinese scene is actually quite competitive among them all. Like, there's a lot of really good players in the Chinese scene. They all compete amongst each other in it. It changes up who comes in first quite a bit of the time. So, a TvP on the map Everdream. Ladies and gentlemen, before this cast gets too started, or starts heating up, try and hit that like button if you can. It would be greatly appreciated to support the channel. Ooh, Probe playing with fire. If we can hit 50 likes on this video, that would be awesome. I know that Bomber and Cyan aren't necessarily the two most known pros, but I think they're going to deliver a really good match here. So I decided to cast them. And as per always, let me know what players you want to see cast, if you're happy me casting the lesser known matches, or if you just want to see me cast like Serral versus Maru, like everyone and their dog probably has done at this point. So yeah, let me know. Anyway, we have got ourselves Cyan just doing a usual Protoss opening. Same for Bomber, pulling up that production tab now as things are starting to actually get thrown up. Bomber did open up with a Marine, which was a notable start. We had Cyan go for a Stargate after just a usual scout opening with his probe. He sends his probe home right away, which is pretty interesting, not trying to send that in later. I guess that was in reaction to seeing the Marine. You say, okay, well, the Marine's not going to move out on the map, so there's not going to be that timing for when you're going for a Reaper into a reactor or anything like that. So that was a choice by Cyan, which was pretty interesting. Adept is shading towards the natural. Looks like that shade will finish. Going to try and grab an SCV, but not going to be able to do so. So Bomber's going to collapse on top of this Adept, try and get it. Possibly may do so. No, so close, but not quite that lucky. Adept gets out of there. This one Marine not so lucky as he's on his last legs, 1 HP. He should probably be the guy hanging out in the bunker before he just gets picked off. Cyan shades forward the one Adept, but cancels the shade. And the game's just going to continue on here as we've got Bomber producing Marines. We have got a Starport about to finish up for Bomber 2. He's going to swap that over, put that on the Tech Lab, and be able to make a Banshee. Banshee indeed. Cloak starting up for Bomber. Banshee's not the most common play for Terran, and I think Bomber is going to be a little bit sad that Cyan's going for a Stargate play, which generally does counter that, and those Adepts almost making it into Bomber's main base. That's a little bit nerve-wracking. But yeah, I think Bomber's going to have to be on his toes a little bit as this Oracle's going to fly on in. Bomber's only got 2 Marines in his main base, mainly just making Marines. He's barely making anything else. He's now just firing up his Cyclone, but very late. Cyan, however, is flying around with his Oracle, I guess a little bit worried about getting any actual damage done. Something like that. Bomber has left plenty of Marines at his natural. He should be able to deal with these Adepts and the Oracle, I think. Particularly with an STV pull if Cyan does decide to commit on in. Stasis Ward attempt by Cyan gets shut down right away. And we see Bomber dealing with this pressure very nicely. He's getting out a few more Marines now. He's going to have out that Cyclone, so he doesn't really have to worry about the Oracle damage. And Cyan has scouted in. So he did actually see the Banshee production, but then Bomber just straight up cancels that, and then goes for Hyperflight Rotors, cancels that, restart. Bomber just all over the place with what tech he's deciding to research. He starts up Cloak, he cancels it, as it was scouted. Then he starts up hyperflight rotors, I guess, to make Cyan think he was still researching it. But then he kind of stops and changes up his mind, so it's like, what are you doing, guy? What are you doing, says Cyan. In reality, Cyan, he's got up a shield battery in every base. This was a topic of Protoss discussion as of late. Like, is it really worth it? Technically, it does slow down your build a little bit, but you're pretty much always going to use the shield battery. I can't remember which pro I was listening to talk to that. Maybe it was Arstum or someone else. It's tough to remember, but yeah. No one's really taken any damage this game whatsoever. Literally just a stasis ward, which has died. Why? Wait, is that a bug? Why is he negative 25 minerals? Nothing's died. I guess he could have started a pylon and then canceled it. That's the most likely thing. That's 25 minerals. But stasis wards, when they're killed, actually show up on the unit's lost tab, which is pretty interesting. And now Bomber, he's going to be moving out with his Banshee. Did he get cloaked? No, he canceled it. No surprise there. But we do see Cyan. He's more than covered. So this Banshee's going to get nothing done. And we've just got ourselves a very, very respectful macro game. To start things off, Bomber, he's getting up all of his barracks, 5 racks and all going. Zero harassment. This is very Bomber-esque fashion. I don't think there's a lot of Terrans who would go up in a TvP and play the way Bomber has. Bomber's gonna try and grab a probe or two. He's pulling Cyan away. Kills one probe with that Banshee, but the problem is there's a Phoenix and an Oracle out, so that Banshee is just donezo. Yeah, totally dead. Only gonna get the one probe. Cyan reacted very appropriately. He's just been macroing up, and the Protoss player who's been unharassed this game, I'd say does have the build order advantage. Terran players are more comfortable going into the late game these days. Yes, that's a fact. But guys like Clem, guys like Kiramaru are all still harassing every game. They don't sit back versus Protoss still. And this is what Bomber's doing. He likes to do that 3cc play, which he's been doing for literal years at this point, by the way. So nothing's really changed, and that's partially why I wanted to cast this game. We had Bomber in a Freak of World, and he just got wrecked by Zaun. He didn't look competitive at all to Zaun. And so it makes me wonder, like, while other pros like Dream and Dong Regu are really coming back into form, what's going on with Bomber? Why isn't he, like, reaching really competitive levels again of play? And I think part of the reason is that he hasn't really adjusted his style. He's not embracing the newer styles. Like, I think he needs to watch some more Terran games as he loses a medivac attacking those rocks. That was a little bit of unnecessary loss, just not paying attention to that Protoss army walking down. We now see Cyan starting to put a little bit of pressure on Bomber. I really don't think Cyan can make anything happen here, but he's still pretty comfortable being out on the map with his units. Maybe going to try and grab another medivac or something. That is not the case just yet, though. And Bomber is going to have his 1-1 upgrades done in a second, so he will have an upgrade lead. But at the same time, Cyan, who's been unharassed this game, he's got that 4th base about to finish up. He has got Psystorm on the way. He's got Immortals being produced, Charge, Cinnamon Spice, and everything nice, effectively. And so I think this game is, it's going to be a hard one for Bomber to win. As he's throwing up a 4th command center, he's got up a ton of barracks, so he's going to have a lot of bio production. But it's so odd how he's just playing with these mass amounts of bio. This is what Bomber did against Zaun in a Freak of World, too. And I do question this style. I think he might be able to make it work against someone like Cyan, because Cyan's not as good as someone like Zaun, but playing this sort of style, I think, really does have a skill cap on it. As far as the opponents you can take down. And we'll see if Cyan, if he's going to be able to punish this style, how he's going to play it out. For now, Cyan is just getting up a ton more gateways. He's got Psystorm finished up. Does he have any High Templar? Yes, he does. He's got 5. Bomber hasn't even started a Ghost Academy. He's not going into Liberators. He's just playing mass bio. And I really, really question this style. He's going to have 2 main groups to this. He's killing off all the rocks, so he's got better positioning and stuff, but we're looking at a Protoss who's already got Psystorm to his name, and that is not good for the Terran at all. As Bomber is just going to have to split like a god. He's just going to have to hope that he's got pure numbers on his side with his bio. Looks like a Zealot warping in the main base is causing Bomber some grief. He's had to pull back some of his army. Now he's going to be taking a fight. He's got to get away from that army, though, taking some losses. This Prism at the natural base of Bomber is being controlled very well by Cyan. It's a good job, Cyan, with that harassment. He's also taken a fight on this front. Bomber just stims through the Psystorm. This is a very Bomber thing to do. Cyan does get forced to recall, as I believe he runs pretty much out of Psystorm. He loses a lot of units during the recall, but he's still got Zealot harassment going in Bomber's base. I think Bomber almost needs to fire up a Viking to deal with this Prism, as Cyan's doing a very, very good job just unloading those Zealots, pulling back. And it's the classic, oh, you pull away, I go in sort of play, and oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, Bomber's just transferring SCVs. He's not going for an SCV pull. But for now, though, Bomber just staying on this mass bio production. This seems to be his TvP style, and I'm really not sure how I feel about it. Yeah, we'll have to see if he's going to be able to make something work. He's got an upgrade lead for now, but Cyan, he's got a lot more Psystorm where that came from. He's just got an actual ton of Psystorm. Look at all these High Templars. Bomber's going to need to split like a god. I would like to see Cyan start adding on Colossus, as I think that would do him very well. He's also got a very nice Zealot counterattack. Going to warp in more Zealots into the main base as Bomber gets pulled away. Looks like Bomber will kind of anticipate this one, but yeah. This is what more... This is the kind of thing that shouldn't happen as much to Terrans in this day and age. It was common back in like 2015. This would happen to Terrans all the time. They'd get played like a fiddle by the Prism, but Terrans know to expect the Prism at this point. So Bomber shouldn't be getting pulled apart this much by the Zealots, taking more and more losses. He could have made a Viking by now just to shoo away that Prism, or he needs to leave like a permanent chunk of bio back home. You can't just be pulling all your bio away and be like, oh no, he warped in more Zealots into my base again. It's not a surprise. This Prism's going to do it again, and so we do see Bomber having his production rally at home, but if he pulls this bio away, that will be a mistake, because Cyan will go for it again. We see Bomber now going on the offensive right now, having to eat, or eating a lot of Psystorms as this goes on. Cyan's army has been split rather well, and oh, Bomber's super clumped up. Where's the Psystorm, Cyan? And there it is. Now Bomber having to run in, but oh, I don't think this is a good engagement for the Terran. Looks like he's not going to win out on the left side. He's trading out with the Protoss army on the right side, but overall I think this is a very good trade for Cyan. He kept his Immortals alive, who popped off all those Marauders. Bomber gets pushed home. The economy at 76 probes to 56 SCVs. We now see Bomber throwing up turrets. I think better late than never, I guess, is the statement that fits. We see Cyan throwing up more cannons just because he doesn't want to get pulled out of position. He's got his 4th base happily mining. His 5th base is on the way. Bomber is on 4 bases and does have a 5th base about to finish up too. So Bomber's on a healthy base count, which I'll say is really good for him. But so far, though, I think you still got to be very careful as Bomber playing with style like the mass bio. Like, you can keep building bio all day long, and Cyan, I'm sure, will say, okay, I'll keep warping in High Templar all day long. I would really like to see Cyan try and go for Colossus if he gets the money. For now, though, he is just trying to replace his army since he has traded a lot of it out. But 1 or 2 Colossus in this army, it means that the Terran can't poke and prod to force out those Psystorms. The passive AoE is very, very strong. But yeah, this looks like a pretty good spot here, I'll say, for Cyan still, just based off Bomber's composition. Army supply-wise, Cyan is down quite a bit, so he is going to need some big Psystorms, but he should very well get them when there's this much bio to Psystorm. Bomber runs in, gets a good chunk of his army stasis warded, or I guess in Bomber's case, a bad chunk of his army stasis warded. Psystorm goes down, going to zone out that army. There's going to be at least one more for Cyan. He's going to be coming in with the rest of his force now. He's got a bunch of Zealots he's warped in. Zealots don't do the best with Psystorm, and this is why I think Cyan needs Colossus, because Bomber can just pull back against this Psystorm, kite against the Zealots, then all of a sudden there isn't that much left for the Protoss. And we are seeing this in full effect right now. The Immortals trying to pop off these Marauders, but they are getting caught. We are going to have to see some more Psystorm getting dropped for Cyan when possible. Cyan's going for the Immortals, which I really do like it. They're really great against this mass Marauder composition, but still, it's a little bit worrisome for the Protoss player not having Colossus in this. Like, this range for Colossus would completely prevent Bomber just from sitting out here, going in and out. And so, if Cyan can get out Colossus at some point, I think it'll be huge. For now, he's just opting for a big old DT warp, and 5 DTs warping in. Bomber's got turrets at most of his bases, but we've seen in the recent meta as of late, it's not just about having the bases, it's about having the actual units at home to defend the DTs. So these DTs, they're going to run in towards Bomber's 4th base location. While this is going on, though, Cyan's going to be losing his 5th, so going to be a lot of damage for a lot of damage. Bomber has to lift off this location, loses 13 SCVs pretty much immediately. Cyan's pushing forward, hoping to catch Bomber with some good Psy Storms, but for now, Bomber, he's doing pretty well for himself. He might push into the natural. These High Templar were warped in, but they do not have the energy yet to drop Psy Storm, so Cyan will need to split his army a little bit. Right now we see Bomber, his economy is really not that much of importance to him right now. He's just all about the attack, but he eats some big Psy Storms there, attacking the natural base of Cyan. Now Cyan just needs to hold on his 4th base, but I don't think he's going to be able to, so he's got to use a recall, get some more High Templar in the fight, recall Psy Storm immediately, pushes back Bomber, but still the Terran player's trading out pretty darn well. We're seeing the same story of the fact that Bomber is really up on supply this game. 48 supply to 110 is not good for Cyan. He doesn't have anything else here to help deal with this. He dropped the Psy Storm. I think he's got to morph those High Templar into Archons, and Cyan will lose his base here. So this is actually really starting to look up for Bomber. I know I've really been just kind of dumping on his playstyle, but it has been working for him. He has macroed enough. Cyan, the fact that he got up to 5 bases was really good, but that he never got up a 6th or anything, because the players were just trading out so constantly, and Cyan wasn't getting those big Psy Storms that he needed. And as a result, right now, we see Cyan, he's in a very rough spot. He's down to 3 bases. I mean, his main's mined out, his natural's pretty much mined out, and his 3rd's not far behind that. So yeah, Bomber, who's got up a 5th base, is doing very well. It's going to need to be some miracle Psy Storms for Cyan. Now he's got a big amount of Archons, and there's actually no ghosts in this composition. So we'll see how this is going to work out. It's just it's basically a High Templar army. A bunch of High Templar Archons and some High Templar Psy Storms is what we'll be seeing. The problem is, we're seeing this range conundrum once again, and this is why so many Protoss add in Colossus, even if it's just 1 or 2 to their composition, because the Colossus basically prevent the bio from kiting against your Archons, your Zealots, things like that. We're going to see these Archons, they have to pull away from this engagement because the bio will just kite them until a Psy Storm or 2 gets dropped to buy a moment of respite. So yeah, Cyan, he's in a very rough spot. Looks like he is just going to charge towards this natural base. He is going to maybe pin some of Bomber's army, which is going to be really good for him. And the game will be heading into a bit of a base trade, it looks like, as Bomber is forced to lift off his 5th base. He's coming in towards to hit the 4th base, seeing like, oh, there's not even a base to kill there. Cyan's really going to have to rely on the DTs to get him some damage done this game, but Bomber must have a scan saved up. He must have a few scans saved up. Yeah, he does at his natural base. There's the scan. Those DTs, they do get out of there, thanks to the DT blink. And the base race is going to continue on. Bomber, he's produced some units in his main base. We'll see if he can hold on to that. But yeah, full-on base trade getting started right now. Cyan's got the DTs in his pocket, which is a pretty darn good trick. He's getting on top of a lot of these units. The natural base still has energy for a scan, but Bomber's not really paying attention to this. The DTs are cutting up so much of the Terran supply, and if Cyan can pull that off enough, force enough of Bomber's bases to lift so he can't really scan, it's going to be a great spot for Cyan. He's got more and more DTs. He's going to have to get out with those, keep him alive. He can't afford to lose all of his DTs. If he does, the game is over. Cyan is going to have to push into Bomber's main base at some point as well. If he can get this full energy CC, that would be nice. Bomber's dropping it so that he can drop a scan, because right now Bomber cannot scan. He does not have an orbital on the ground. He's even building another because he needs that so drastically. He's just going to land this orbital, drop the scan as soon as possible. But no, he didn't actually drop the scan because he was in full flight from the DTs. And Cyan's really making a game out of this with his... Cyan's really making a game out of this with his DTs. He's on top of the production that Bomber has. Bomber's still a rather wealthy man here. As we see, he's got these CCs still alive, mining from the PF. I don't know if Cyan will ever be able to crack that, as a matter of fact. And the fact that I don't think that Cyan will be able to crack that planetary might actually be what's going to give Bomber the game. Cyan probably can, but it'll cost him a lot, though. We see Cyan's got to pursue these orbital commands. I think that's really his only choice. Kill off the things that let Bomber scan, and then just try and win with the DTs. That's his only choice. Cyan, he's moving in with the DTs, baiting out the scan, loses 1 DT in the process. Cyan's going to be losing most of his buildings right now, and so he is the player that's on the clock. We see him trying to grab these orbitals. I think he's got to go for the PF to get on top of this. There's the Psystorm dropping on the PF, so he can break it. He's got to pull back the High Templar too, so the PF doesn't pick them off. And the PF will fall. Bomber can no longer drop a scan, except he's securing another base as this game goes on. The DTs now can protect the buildings of Cyan, but at the very least, at this point, it is going to be a draw game. I still think Bomber's got a lot of potential to win this one, though. He's got the bio on the ground. He can potentially engage the Protoss force still. And these buildings are going to land in the main base. This will unlock the scan ability for Cyan, for Bomber once again. We'll see if there's going to be some huge Psy Storms for Cyan. He already drops 2 just to try and grab some of those medivacs. There's more storms going down, zoning out this army. How many more is there for Cyan? It looks like there might be enough. The DT's coming on in too. Bomber has yet to drop a scan, and the DTs are really cutting up a lot of these units. Part of the reason for that is the fact that that Stalker forced Bomber to lift off those right before he took a fight. We see Cyan, he's starting to get on top of these orbitals. There's really just the one that might get away, although it'll be close. Bomber has secured the space to the right-hand side, however, so he's not out of this just yet. He's still got economy potential in this game. He's even making more Marines as it goes on. What a crazy match we've got here so far. Looks like Bomber will lose this orbital command, but he's maybe sensing that he can grab some of the Protoss's units here. And oh my gosh, Cyan's so ballsy moving out with these Immortals. Where are they going? Immortals by themselves. Cyan splitting up his army is so risky right now because it's questionable at best if he can take a fight. We see Cyan found Bomber's command center to the right. We see that Bomber does have this orbital still mining. He can drop a scan with it if need be. The DTs are still alive for Cyan, but I feel like he should be hunting the army or hunting the orbitals as his main priority, because that's how he's going to force the draw in this game. Looks like this Prism's going to be lost. That's a shame. That was an alright tool for Cyan to have. The fact that Cyan's just got his DTs killing supply depots is something that I question, because supply depots aren't what Bomber is trying to get up right now. He's trying to get up extra orbitals. The supply block will hurt Bomber, but I do think that Cyan should really be focusing on trying to, like, just find all of Bomber's bases. You gotta snuff him out, or Bomber will start growing again, and that's the problem. What a crazy base trade, though, right now. Cyan, the problem is, though, he's losing all of his structures. Bomber's got up a turret at this base now, so the DTs can't really get Cyan the win in that sense. Unless Bomber's army is really out of position and say the DTs are going to be able to kill off the turret, force the orbital command to lift off, but right now Bomber's getting up a PF. And there's no way Cyan has the supply to break another planetary fortress, I don't believe, because he lost all of his High Templar in that last fight. And as a result, yeah, I think Bomber's got this. There's no way Cyan can mine. I think he's in big trouble, and I think that we have seen the Protoss player take this game. Bomber knows that he's just got to hold on this location. He's putting out his units all over the place. I think Cyan might actually GG if he sees this PF. He sees all of Bomber's bio, and he's just got to say, well, okay, I'll go for it. But there's a turret next to a planetary fortress. And Bomber's being smart. He's not dropping mules. He's saving his scan energy. So I think Bomber has won this incredibly scrappy game. I think he's done it. Yeah, these DTs, they can go in, but they'll see the PF, and I think that's got to be it for Cyan. I think he knows that he's beat at this point. Bomber's got a medivac, gonna go find this assimilator, see that there's no army there. Bomber's got another medivac moving out, I guess just trying to use them since he's got a ton of them for vision. Yeah, the Stalkers can be microed all day, but he'll never crack this PF unless Bomber missteps or something like that. He can try. If he still had a High Templar or two, maybe, but he simply doesn't. Alright, looks like Cyan's gonna go for it. He's got to try and break this PF, but I don't think there's a hope in hell for him. The DTs are gonna blink on top. This Bomber scans. That's gonna clean up the DTs. Cyan's army cannot clean this up whatsoever, and that's gonna be the game. GG gets called. Bomber does take that crazy, crazy TvP. Wow. What a clashing of styles, and his typical fashion for a lot of the matches that involve Chinese players. That one was nuts. So well played by Bomber, able to get the win though. Yeah, well done by him. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this match, make sure to go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, join the Discord. That's a link down below. Consider becoming a member if you do enjoy this content. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching. This has been LaughNgamez.